Hi, I'm Robin Gully.
I'm John Justin.
We are your Ward 2 council people here to do the council recap on July 8th, 2024. So we started with the EDA work session where we had one item on the agenda. It was a project update on 150 Thompson.
Yeah, so 150 Thompson, so it was the representatives from Greco came in, and also
former YMCA site,
former Hy-Vee site,
Hy-Vee,
former
almost
et cetera.
site, yeah.
Yes, 150 Thompson. We're going to call it that because it's so much easier.
Yeah.
So basically, just kind of an update on how that project's going. It's a large scale project, so I mean, obviously, it takes time, and we have been working on this for 2 years now, at least. At least. And so, just kind of an update on. Kind of a 3-phase construction thing. Phase 1 is going to be the initial market rate townhomes plus 6,500 square feet, and that might change of commercial space. And actually, I was curious about that, and I asked, and it looks like what they're entertaining right now is possibly a coffee shop, possibly a fitness, some sort of fitness thing, but I think that's in flux. But so there will be commercial along with the housing. And then also phase 1 will be, the public amenities will be constructed in phase 1. And so that's a big deal because a lot of what we're trying to get out of this is sort of this, and you've probably seen us talk about this before. You're certainly welcome to go back and look at it. And in fact, you might want to, it's half an hour. It might be worth taking a look at this if you're really curious. The good news is that phase 1, which would be the first construction, the first thing to start, will include the public amenities that we're working on. So we're basically delivering a lot of the things that people have been asking for. And don't worry, none of it's inked. We are going to be having a lot of discussion about what that is that you want. But that will be folded into the initial phase. So one of the first things that will be constructed is the public stuff that'll be there and accessible to everybody in the city, which is really cool. Phase 2 would be additional. And then also townhomes will be in that. Phase 2 would be an additional market rate housing apartment, and then phase 3 would be 8,000 square foot restaurant, brewery, something like that. One thing also to mention, it's called phase 3 because it's separated out on a financial end. It doesn't mean it's going to be built last, and in fact, it's expected that that would move forward probably concurrent with phase 1.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that's broken out is each of these phases, we also talked about TIF. There will be TIF involved in this. There's really no way for this to get off the ground without TIF. But TIF will be applied to the phase 1 thing, the phase 2 thing, and not to phase 3. Phase 3 will be TIF. There'll be no TIF on that portion.
And just to remind folks who haven't been watching every single one of these updates for years, TIF is tax increment financing. It basically says that one of the ways that we can get some of the public amenities that we want, and you guys, the public amenities on this
are significant.
Really cool.
I believe
really
it's the estimate is that it's about $6 million worth of public amenities, somewhere in that range, and that's kind of the starting point. There may be more than that. We'll get to there when we get to there.
But not to get too off track, but it's going to likely include. I mean, you know, the project is. There's a beautiful draft, and we have to come and like talk to all of you about what you want and things like that. But it's likely going to include things like a pond and like an
performance
space, a playground,
kind of an open activity area. It's a lot. It's a good portion of the site, and that will again all be not amenities for the people. I mean, obviously the people that live there are welcome to use them, but they will not be landlocked amenities that are only for the people there. It will be amenities for the public. That's about $6 million.
Oh, and so TIF is tax increment financing. And basically the shortest way to explain it is that we offset the extra costs by keeping the tax value at what it is. For a certain number of years, until they've reached a certain value, right? So we usually have a pretty good sense of how long it's going to be. But you know, if the tax value goes up faster, we can pay, like the TIF can be fulfilled faster.
Generally, they will be too. Generally, TIFs, because property increases in value when it's constructed and things like that, do actually vanish faster than the ultimate timeline. The ultimate timeline is if you haven't offset it by then, you get charged your full tax amount. Couple other things to mention. This will increase the contribution to the city no matter what, because this will change from being, when the YMCA was there, it was not it's a nonprofit, so there was no tax contribution from that. This is a for-profit entity, so it'll freeze at the value of the land as it is. That'll still be more money coming in on the books on the first year, which is one of the more interesting things, because sometimes TIF is a little more confusing than that, but this will show a marked input to the city right from termination of construction. When it's finished, we will start to see revenue from it. Another thing to remember is they will also be purchasing the land from the city. So we will be regaining the cost of the land that we currently have on our rolls. So that's probably $5 million that'll be coming into the city on that purchase. So there's a lot of upsides to this. TIF is always convoluted. There are times where I think that TIF has been great, and there are times where I think maybe TIF has not been as great. I think this one looks good to me. The details are all going to come later. We've made no decisions. We've not granted a TIF. We basically just talked about, they needed to know, are you willing to talk about TIF? We're willing to talk about TIF because of what we're going to get from this thing. And then I believe the total TIF was $18 million. Do not quote me on that. It's split into two parts. Phase 1 is a 26-year TIF. Again, probably going to lapse long before that. Phase 2 actually is only allowed to be a 17-year TIF. And so we're not even pushing past that. And those are concurrent. So phase 2 could conceptually end before phase 1. The restaurant will never be TIF'd, so that will be at market value. And an interesting figure is, overall, and this doesn't seem like a big number, but trust me, it is. This is a 4% increase to the totality of our tax income right now in the entire city, is what's projected when this finishes up. And adding 4% to your tax is huge, has some huge opportunities to offset increases in property taxes, which is always the goal. And we will see some offsets on that even in the beginning stages, because we will be getting that revenue that we're currently not getting any revenue on. So
yeah.
There's lots more to do. We're probably looking at public meetings concerning the public amenities. Next step is going to an environmental thing. And they're about to invest, I think it's $3 to $4 million into the next step. So they do want some idea that, hey, are you guys behind this project or not? And I would say the council is behind the project. That's what they needed to hear from us, because otherwise no company's dumb enough to take $4 million and throw it in a hole and then have us go like, nah, not interested. Thanks for everything, so.
Literally, I think the next phase is like the official design phase.
Yeah, so we will see some actual site plans. We've seen some conceptual site plans, but that'll be the next step, is their architects, et cetera, will be doing not final, but the site plans that then will go in front of planning and will go in front of the council, and we can say, we like this, we don't like this. There'll be a ton of public input on those amenities. Yeah. So keep an eye on it. Probably going to see a lot of that start to come at the end of this year. And I think if everything moves as we think it's going to move and everybody likes what's happening, if we move forward with it, you're looking at construction beginning in summer of 2025.
Next summer.
So a year from now, you'll actually see that construction start, and it'll probably move fast. They always move faster than I can believe that people can build things. Yeah. So that's the short version of that. Again, if you are interested in knowing this step of the progression, I'd really recommend just watching that half hour.
And that was the EDA work session.
Yeah. So you should be able to find that on Town Square and streaming and all of that stuff.
And on our website, you can always click on the little television next to the meeting icon. Yeah. So. Then we went into open council work session, and speaking of housing, we had a conversation about affordable housing and what kinds of steps we want to take for affordable housing in West St. Paul. And so we've had many conversations about affordable housing in West St. Paul, and the fact is we want all of our housing to be affordable. And if you look at the way that so we have some charts and graphs and things like that in the documents from this week's open council work session that show you that most people in West St. Paul are actually living not in affordable housing for them, especially in our renters. Renters specifically, that many of our renters are living outside of what would be considered affordable.
It's a house burden. There's a term for it, where if a certain percentage of your income is going to housing, then you have a harder time making things work in general. So
So
there's no easy answers to affordable housing. If there was, it'd be done already. And everybody, it's not just us, everybody is trying to figure out how to make this work. You have to have a place for people who work in your city to live. And right now, nobody's managed to find the magic formula to make that work. And I think one of the big takeaways was that, and I appreciate the efforts, but that possibly some of the federal attempts to make affordable housing work haven't achieved what the goal has been,
Yeah.
And so you can't really fix the federal government's take on how to do affordable housing. So we were presented with 4 kind of things to explore moving forward on how we can move the needle on affordable housing. And the answer is not for the city to build affordable housing. It's just not feasible. It's not possible. You're dealing with also a basically fully developed city. There's a lot of criteria that go into this. So the city cannot take from the public sector and build affordable housing. It's just not a viable thing. So then the question becomes, how do we move forward and help with affordable housing without that burden falling on the taxpayers? And that's the sort of exploratory things that were mentioned. I don't have them in front of me. If you are curious on that, I think they're all really interesting, clever ideas. Again, hooray for our staff. I feel like we say that every time, for thinking about how do we get to what we want to get to when we know that we have certain handcuffs on what we can do. And I think that we'll see more of those coming forward. Some are more time sensitive than others. There's an allocation of sales tax for affordable housing. We're going to have to figure out how to spend that. I think it's the wide range of $350,000 to $600,000 that's going to come in from sales tax. It's earmarked for affordable housing. We have to spend that wisely. We have to do it with programs that are going to actually do something and work. We can't use the money for anything else, and we can't sit on it, because if we sit on it, it goes back. So that'll probably be the first thing we see come in front of us, is what are we going to do with that specific earmarked money? And then from there's some other really interesting ideas that we're going to explore. And again, also only a half an hour long. If you are interested in this subject, I would recommend taking a look at it. It's spelled out really, I think, very well. In like about an 8-page document that should be on the website. You might want to just read through that. You'll look at the end, a list of 4 things to explore. Those are the 4 things that I think we're going to see coming in front of us. If you have ideas on that, reach out. As always, please. None of us are experts in affordable housing. We do a lot of different things, and we learn as much as we can. But if you have insights that we don't have, we need those insights very badly. So.
And then we moved on to the council meeting, and we only really had a couple of things, but I do want to mention in council comments, we had some flags of really good things that we have going on here in our city. First of all, we could not mention the fact that our own Wendy Berry became a vice president.
First vice president of the League of Minnesota Cities.
League of Minnesota Cities.
Which means, that's basically second in line for command. Not that anybody's going to get deposed or anything like that, but we're not going after anybody. But that's it's a big deal. Big deal. We're all extremely proud that Wendy is part of our organization, and she's risen to that level, and it's impressive, and it's really, really cool. I was lucky enough to be there to watch this happen, and it was really cool to be in a room full of city leaders from across the state, a lot of people, and see somebody from little old 22,000 population West St. Paul in that position of power. It's really, really cool. And I think a lot of good moves have been made because of that perspective on that body. So congratulations again to Wendy.
Congratulations to Wendy. And if you're on social media watching this right now, just go over and give her a shout out.
There you go.
For getting elected the first vice president of the League of Cities here in West St. Paul. And then we had Pat always does a great job of naming the donations to the city. I don't have them written down, but it's
$500 from Quick Trip. For some reason, I remember this, for Cops in the Park. It was the main one from today. And then
thank you, Quick Trip,
had mentioned a $200 contribution to, I believe, the police dog from last meeting. He mentioned it this time, but he had forgotten to actually thank the person. He just clarified it, so he thanked them specifically. That name I don't remember, but those are the 2.
There you go.
And then Oh, and Pride Festival.
And Pride is coming up this weekend.
Yep.
This is the 5th annual Pride.
I'm not actually sure. I think we might have had one that was a little impossible to do because of certain events you may recall. But yeah, Friday kickoff with a skate event.
Yep, and then all day in the park on at the Dome, right?
Nope, it's a sports center.
Sports center, yeah.
Yeah, so where West St. Paul Days
Not
had
the
this,
Dome, sorry,
the
sports
stage.
complex.
Yeah, sports complex, that's it. Yeah, and so that's moved. I think they might have been there last year. I can never go because my store is literally open when it happens. So, and the other person that works for me does sound for it. So if you don't see me there, it's not because I don't want to be there. It's because I can't, because I have to be in my store.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love to be
Stupid
there.
store.
It's a lot of fun. So John's missing out.
I know. My family will be there without me.
So go to Pride this weekend. It's really a lot of fun and a great chance to hang out with folks from our city too.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, we had the EDA meeting, but actually all we did in the EDA meeting was talk about what we talked about.
Oh, we missed a couple things.
Oh, wait a second.
So there was a final reading and amendment to a plan development, which literally is just correcting something from the year 2010 where there was a different vision for the area over by Cub Foods, etc. And as you've noticed, we've had some outlot buildings built out there. Why can't I remember what any of them are? Anyway, they've been built. Yes.
Starbucks.
Yes.
There's going to be a Wendy's there. There's going to be a Wendy's.
So this is the Wendy's, and so we had to go back because in that initial vision there were only going to be 2 drive-throughs allowed in the whole front outlot. This is also when we had totally different parking requirements and a lot of other stuff. So that 2010 plan development was built on a very different vision for what we're doing in the city. And so it's not like we're like, everybody gets a drive-through. It's definitely more of a, like, realistically, that drive-through's unobtrusive. It's not up on Robert Street. The building's extremely pedestrian friendly. And so it was kind of a housekeeping thing that, technically they couldn't have built there without this change, and you need a drive-through for a small format Wendy's. It's just that simple, and so there's no downside.
I can't tell you how many people, when I was outdoor knocking, when I was running for the seat, how many people said they wanted a Wendy's. So Wendy's, I know I've seen some people who have said, like, what, a Wendy's? But I'll tell you, a lot of people in our city really want a Wendy's.
Really legitimately want a Wendy's. So you're getting, look, it appears you're getting a Wendy's.
Everything
we've done is giving you a Wendy's at this point.
You're so welcome.
Yes. We didn't recruit them. They came here of their own volition, and here they are.
Welcome, Wendy's.
Yep.
Go enjoy, and they'll have a drive-through. And then we had a final reading for the charter amendment. This was what we talked about a few weeks ago regarding council salary. So you can check out the amendment if you want. Every time council gets a salary increase, it has to be done by a charter amendment. It has to be done by a full vote of the council. It has to be unanimous. I think it raises our salaries to approximately $10,000 a year.
It goes from 8,000 to 10,000, and it may go up another 2,000 the following year.
Yeah, and I think it raises the mayor's salary to something a
little bit
higher than that. I think maybe like 12 or 13,000 or something.
Yep.
So check it out. It's not like great fun to take votes on this stuff, but we also see it as a way that we continue to invest in our city, and that we see that we're like helping to make these positions something that people want and not just want to, are able to do, right? And finances are just one of the barriers to having people serve in these elected seats. So it's not like
it's not a lucrative position. I think we can all agree on that. It is not a high hourly wage, even at these increased salaries. But if it opens the doors for people that maybe otherwise could not be represented at the table, which is what we've been trying to do, it's a good thing in the long term. And it's a natural thing. If you don't do it, you're just forcing somebody later to take an even harder vote to really catch up with all of the changes. I mean, lest we talk about inflation and property taxes and all the things that affect us, just like it does everybody else. We are, trying to keep a pace so that somebody down the road doesn't have to do something where it's like, oh, we have to do double the council salary because
We're so
10 years of
behind.
councils decided to not bother to do it at a future point, which is unfair to the people that'll fill these seats. We won't be here forever. It's unfair to them to put them in that position. So,
And in fact, like, that's what we've seen for, in the past. A lot of the time people don't make hard decisions because they're hard.
Mhm.
And then we end up having to like make harder decisions down the line. And so we're always trying to think, just in case you're ever thinking about running, we're always trying to make decisions that will be good for not just us now, but good for future councils.
Absolutely.
So, all right, now we really can move on to the EDA. But
it's a real short one.
we just took up the question that we took up in the EDA work session around.
It's an extension of the development agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like I said, a project of this magnitude, which is, I would argue, maybe one of the biggest projects that's happened in decades. It is one of the biggest projects, in decades in the city.
Yeah.
That does not move quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of things, economic indicators, costs of construction, interest rates,
Especially
all of that.
when we want a lot out of it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And we have, I think, a really good partner that's delivering much more than we've generally seen from a developer for public amenities, so that's cool. But so we are, I believe it extends, it gives them enough time to get through the next stages and come back to us and have everything kind of inked by the spring. And so, again, kind of a bookkeeping thing where otherwise it would have elapsed in July, end of July, which would have probably been real hard to get all of that work they're trying to do with, drawing up a really good plan and doing all the environmental work. It just wasn't possible. So. Doesn't change the general tenor of the agreement at all. It's just an extension. Everything's moving forward the way that we've been watching it and hoping for it to move forward. So just giving them a little more time to get everything kind of put together in the best possible way. And like I said, you're going to see a lot about this project moving forward in both the planning commission level and at the council level for the foreseeable future. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. All right, well, catch up with us next time.
Yeah.
We'll see ya. Have
Bye.
a good July.
Yeah.
Well, no holidays coming up in
Yeah.
a couple weeks, but be safe, everyone.
Sounds good. Bye.